Eerie recovery spreading fear and absorbing the eerie fear of fear, a single-person army of paper figures, the blood sword that cuts through everything, bury all the eerie graves grasp everything and touch the illusory hands, strong defense and ever-changing eerie skin, the sea of blood is raging, the eerie blood that melts everything. Lu Yu fused dreams with latitude authority and evolved the dream world. Swallow the eerie world with the dream world, integrate eerie abilities, and even evolve one side of the eerie world with powerful eerie in eerie abilities. As his strength improved, Lu Yu's family also gradually became strange and eerie flowers and plants, swimming vines for prey, blood-shimmering swimming pools, twisted and wriggling shadows, eerie and playful paper figures. Novel keywords. Eerie revival. I create a world with eerie elements without pop-ups. Eerie revival. I create a world with eerie elements. Download the full text. Eerie revival. I create a world with eerie elements. Latest chapters to read. Chapter 1. Crossing, Monsters in Dreams. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Crossing, Monsters in Dreams. Lu Yu opened his eyes, still full of strange and dazzling lights, countless colorful light bands twisted and swayed around him. Occasional collisions and interweaving create scenes, some familiar to him, some completely unfamiliar, and some intertwined with the two. Some are inside the room, some are in the wilderness, some are in the countryside, and some are in the city and inside. There are also living beings, some familiar and some unfamiliar, with humans and monsters, and he even saw himself in it. Some scenes are just normal life, while others have supernatural existence of demons and monsters, possessing unparalleled extraordinary power, fighting against the heavens and earth, subduing demons. However, as these scenes develop to the end, their own selves will gradually become powerless. What could have flown to heaven and earth, but could never fly again? Originally, he was supposed to subdue demons and subdue them, but instead, he was chased by demons and monsters. And all of these scenes are twisted and bizarre, even the various buildings inside are twisted and tilted, and even directly inverted, without any logic at all. Moreover, some scenes may collide with each other, resulting in intersections. Whenever this happens, Lu Yu in the picture appears here and there, without any regular logic at all. However, upon seeing these bizarre scenes, Lu Yu did not panic at all. Because this is not the first time he has seen it, nor is it the first time he has appeared here. Since he crossed over 3 days ago, he has been dreaming of this scene. Even gradually, he began to feel a sense of control over the bizarre scenes around him, and that sense of control will continue to strengthen over time. Until now, Lu Yu even felt that the floating light bands around him, as well as the dream scenes one after another, were like his own hands and feet extending, allowing him to control them as he pleased. If it weren't for the death of his predecessor, he would have wanted to tidy up the bizarre dream environment around him. Well, time travel, how can he travel without his predecessor dying? However, this is not the point, the focus is on the cause of death of the predecessor. As Lu Yu sorted out his predecessor's memories, he also gained a rough understanding of this world. This world is almost the same as before, and there have been many dynasties in history in this world, as well as resistance against foreign aggression and the establishment of the Xia kingdom. That is to say, this world, like his previous life, is a modern urban world. If it weren't for his much younger body, a change in residential address, and some unfamiliar memories in his mind, he would have thought he hadn't traveled through time. Originally, in the memory of my predecessor for over 20 years, this world was an ordinary urban world. However, just a month ago, my predecessor suddenly had constant nightmares. In the dream, there is a terrifying monster constantly chasing after him. At the beginning, he didn't take it seriously either, he just thought it was his own nightmare. However, as time went on, the situation became increasingly serious, and his physical and mental health became weaker and weaker. It was only then that he gradually realized something was wrong. Afterwards, he went to see a psychologist and sought help from monks and Taoists, but none of them had any effect. He could only feel the monster in his dream, constantly approaching him, as if it could kill him at any moment. Under various tense and anxious emotions, his body became increasingly weak and haggard, feeling lethargic day by day, daydreaming all day long, and even afraid to sleep at night. However, he is not a machine after all. Finally, 3 days ago, my predecessor couldn't hold on anymore and fell asleep. Well, I really fell asleep. The kind that never wakes up. It seems that the monster reappeared and bit off its predecessor's head with one bite. Then, frightened, Lu Yu suddenly sat up. It was completely seamless, and Lu Yu completed the crossing like this. After crossing over, Lu Yu was still a bit nervous at first, afraid that when he was sleeping, he would also dream of that monster and suffocate himself. At the beginning of his dream, Lu Yu did indeed dream of that monster. How to put it, if described normally, the monster is not really scary, it's just pitch black, twisted and bizarre, like a shadow without a form, constantly wriggling and changing different forms. However, the monster seems to have some special ability, and when people see it, they cannot help but feel fear, and the monster will also transform into the most fearful object. And as time goes on, this fear emotion will also continue to increase. In the end, he suffered a mental breakdown, completely lost his resistance, and was killed by that monster. And because of his predecessor's experience, when Lu Yu saw that monster, he couldn't help but feel fear. Instinctively, Lu Yu wanted to escape and even leave his dream. When he was born with this idea, the dream in front of him immediately collapsed and dissipated like a broken mirror. However, Lu Yu did not wake up from this and instead arrived at a strange and dazzling place, with countless light bands fluttering and countless images circulating, as if it were countless 3D projection screens. After the initial panic, Lu Yu remained calm and focused on the countless scenes. Soon, he discovered that they seemed to be just dreams, all of which were from his predecessor's past. Even, he saw the monster darting back and forth among these dreams, one moment entering this dream, another breaking into that dream, as if searching for something. And obviously, the monster is looking for Lu Yu. However, perhaps due to certain limitations, the monster could never escape from those countless dreams and come to the place where Lu Yu was located. So, it is destined not to find Lu Yu. After observing for a period of time, Lu Yu discovered that the monster seemed not very intelligent. Although I searched through all my dreams, I couldn't find any trace of Lu Yu. However, the monster had no intention of stopping, just constantly wriggling and jumping from this dream to the next, in such a cycle that seemed endless. At the beginning, although Lu Yu discovered the monster's weakness, he did not have much spiritual intelligence. However, he doesn't have any great solutions either. After all, he is outside the dream, and the monster really has no way to deal with him, but inside the dream, he will fall into deep fear. Even stiff all over, unable to move, can only rely on what is in their hearts, leave the dream and come to the dream above this one. So, the stalemate between the two convenient options came to an end. One is within the dream, and the other is outside the dream. The new book sets sail, hoping for everyone's support. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Power of Fear, the Demon of Fear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Power of Fear, the Demon of Fear. When Lu Yu was in that ordinary dream, he could clearly feel that there was a certain power in his body that was constantly flowing into the surrounding dreams. And with the integration of that force, his control over the surrounding dreams is also constantly increasing. After such 3 days, his control over the surrounding dreams has reached an extremely deep level. So, Lu Yu was ready to take action against the monster in his dream. As Lu Yu's mind moved, the dream floating and changing around him immediately began to change. Dreams have become more complex, and the barriers between different dreams have been strengthened as much as possible by Lu Yu. At the same time, fantasy monsters, humans, and so on in the dream were all endowed with extraordinary abilities by Lu Yu, and they all developed great hostility towards foreign objects. So, when that monster that can cause fear, or can also be called a dream demon, a demon or demon in a dream. When that dream demon entered a dream again, it immediately attracted attacks from many dream monsters and humans. Moreover, because those dream monsters and humans are not real beings and do not have emotions such as fear, they are naturally not influenced by dream demons. Although, due to the existence of dream demons and their powerful abilities, dream monsters and humans cannot cause too much damage to them. However, the ants devour the elephants, and little by little, they can always pull down a bit of the power of the dream demon. Even a little bit, for Lu Yu, that was the beginning of victory. After the dream demon killed all the dream monsters and humans, Lu Yu did not resurrect them immediately. Instead, he threw a strand of his own power into another dream. Well, as Lu Yu deepened his control over the dream, he realized that he could actually allocate some power and enter the dream. And, that dream demon is very sensitive to the power and aura of Lu Yu. No matter which dream Lu Yu's power lands in, the dream demon can instantly sense and lock it, and use its ability to shuttle through dreams to land in the dream where Lu Yu's power resides. And this time, of course, it is no exception. With the arrival of Lu Yu's wisp of power, the dream demon immediately wriggled and broke through the barrier of the dream, landing in that side of the dream. At the moment of its arrival, Lu Yu had already regained his ray of strength, but there was still some breath floating in it. Then, there was another battle. However, at this moment, Lu Yu did not pay attention to the battle of the dream demon in that dream, but instead focused all his attention on the dream where the dream demon had just left. As time passed, strands of black mist began to appear in the empty dream, and even above the dream barrier, there were strands of this black mist emanating. And this black mist is the scattered power torn apart by the monsters and humans in the dream. If the demon is still in this world, these powers will eventually be reabsorbed by the demon. But at this point, due to the reinforcement of the dream barrier, these dream powers can no longer find their owners. Hey! Little darling, it's my turn to concoct you now. With a slight movement of his thoughts, Lu Yu had already integrated his own strength into it, and then controlled the dream, constantly squeezing that force, wanting to completely crush it into powder or expel his own dream. Of course, in the other side's dream, those dream monsters and humans have intensified their attacks on that set of dream demons, relentlessly entangled them and preventing them from returning to this dream. However, when Lu Yu's power began to squeeze that force, something caught him off guard. I saw that black power, in an instant, directly integrated into his power, which shocked Lu Yu. At first glance, that dream demon is not a good thing. Now that his power is integrated into himself, can there still be something good? However, before Lu Yu could search carefully and see where the force had gone, he felt an additional message suddenly emerge from his mind. As if instinctively, Lu Yu knew what that force was and what kind of changes he would undergo after merging it. That black power, which is the power possessed by the fearful dreamer, can be called the power of fear. After integrating into the power of Lu Yu, he gained a portion of the power to fear the demon of dreams, allowing others to unconsciously feel fear when they see him. Similarly, he can also take the initiative to intimidate others and create a sense of fear in their hearts through his gaze or other physical movements. Moreover, all the fear emotions caused by Lu Yu will be consumed and absorbed by him, becoming his powerful nourishment and strength. After feeling the information in his mind, Lu Yu couldn't help but feel a bit silent. This is the rhythm of making himself the great demon king of fear. However, no matter what, he was finally able to completely solve the monster that parasitized his dreams. The fear dream demon. Lu Yu regained the power to merge into that dream and looked at the other dream. The fearful demon had once again annihilated all the life in that dream. Even the fear power torn apart by the life of the dream has begun to fluctuate faintly, as if there is a tendency to return to the subject of the fear demon. And that fearful dreamer seemed to be preparing to break through the barriers of the world and return to this dream. Unconsciously, Lu Yu accelerated his movements and threw a trace of his strength into another dream. In an instant, the fear demon wriggled and broke into another dream. After regaining its power, Lu Yu began to encircle and merge the fear power in the dream where the demon of fear had just left. With the complete fusion of its power, Lu Yu felt his own strength strengthen once again. Subsequently, Lu Yu concocted according to the law, constantly luring the fearful dream demon into other dreams, and then fusing its stripped fear power. As time passed, the fearful dreamer kept jumping in one side of the dream, and its power was constantly stripped away. Under this balance, the power of the fear dream demon became weaker and weaker, while the power of Lu Yu became stronger and stronger. At the end, the fearful dream demon was left with only a phantom, while Lu Yu's body and dream were all solidified. At this moment, the fearful dreamer curled up in a dream and remained motionless, only occasionally wriggling instinctively, indicating that he was still alive. Even if Lu Yu invested his strength again in other dreams, the fear demon would only wriggle harder at most, without any intention of breaking through the barrier of the dream. Or rather, he no longer has the power to break through the barrier of dreams. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Devouring Dreams and Integrating Dreams. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Devouring Dreams and Integrating Dreams, hee. After seeing the current appearance of the fear dream demon, Lu Yu couldn't help but chuckle. Subsequently, Lu Yu moved his wrist and looked at the dream where the fear demon was located. He took a step out and entered the dream where it was. It seems that the existence of Lu Yu has been discovered, and the previously curled-up fear dream demon phantom finally quickly unfolded, wriggling and spreading towards Lu Yu's direction. The power of fear spreads one by one, and the fearful dreamers constantly wriggle and transform their images, all carrying a deep and terrifying black. That is an extremely deep black that makes people feel chilly and fearful at a glance. The fearful demon seemed to want to bring extreme fear to Lu Yu through this means, causing him to die in despair in extreme fear. However, as Lu Yu, who also mastered the power of fear, he was not affected. Instead, he also emitted a force of fear, offsetting or even suppressing the power of the fear demon in the opposite direction. G. At %, at asterisk, the figure of the fear dream demon stopped and made a series of strange sounds, fluctuating with a mesmerizing power of fear. It is obvious that the fear demon in front of me is very curious about the human in front of me. Why does he have the same power as him? Hey. Looking at the fear demon in front of him, Lu Yu was also slightly surprised. Based on the information in my mind just now, the fear demon in front of me seems to be just a low-level demon, with only some instincts that emit fear and devour the power of fear. Why do you look at him like he has developed some spiritual intelligence now? Is this something that stimulated the birth of spiritual intelligence? Is it always because of my constant teasing and attacks? Lu Yu touched his nose. He would never admit that the fear demon in front of him was awakened by the stimulation he had caused. Well, regardless of whether he has awakened his spiritual consciousness, he is definitely dead anyway. Lu Yu raised his hand and pressed down, the boundless power of the dream gathered, all covering the body of the fearful dreamer. The power of fear surged, and the body of the fearful dreamer trembled slightly. At the same time, a faint and imperceptible force integrated into Lu Yu's body. Is this also okay? Feeling the increase in internal strength, Lu Yu was slightly stunned, not expecting that this fearful dreamer would also have feelings of fear. He originally thought that creating fear and obtaining feedback from fear power needed to be used against humans, but he didn't expect these dreamers to be able to do the same. Well, that's right. The fear demon in front of me, after all, has awakened his spiritual consciousness, and it's understandable that he may feel fearful. It seems that even the same force cannot be completely immune to the same kind of intimidation. It may only depend on which side has stronger control. Now, it is obvious that Lu Yu has gained stronger control. Since it is so, Lu Yu immediately increased his power output, and at the same time, with his controlled dream power, he revealed a large sword. Well, have you ever seen a 40-meter big knife? Now we have it. Shwa. The great sword, blessed by the power of fear, fell, and the icy light shone on the sky and earth. The phantom of the fearful dream demon seemed to have been frightened to the extreme, and its entire body twisted violently. Wu. Waves of fear surged into Lu Yu's body, even causing him to moan uncontrollably. Shu. The knife light flashed past, and the phantom of the fearful dream demon was split in half. In an instant, a stronger force of fear surged into Lu Yu's body. Immediately after, the power that had been shrouded in the fear demon was to envelop the half-divided shadow of the fear demon, gradually devouring it, and the power was once again enhanced. At the same time, the fear ability it has mastered itself has also been instantly elevated by a certain level, as if it has been completely replenished. Wu. The dual happiness is truly delightful both physically and mentally. Two powerful forces rushed into his body in succession, causing Lu Yu to squint his eyes slightly and moan comfortably. Feel your fear ability again. Sure enough, today's fear ability has become more complete. In addition to greatly enhancing previous abilities, it is also possible to plant a seed of fear in the minds of others. As time goes on, the seed of fear will break through its shell and sprout, growing into a newborn fear demon belonging to Lu Yu. The newborn fear demon will reside in human dreams, constantly creating nightmares until the host cannot bear the torment of these terrifying nightmares and experiences a mental breakdown. At that time, the fear demon will devour the host's soul and dreams, and grow into a stronger level of fear demon. Moreover, these terrifying nightmares nurtured by Lu Yu will receive a portion of the fear emotional power they acquire as feedback to Lu Yu. However, nowadays, Lu Yu does not have the heart to condense any kind of fear. He needs to sort out his dreams carefully now. First, with a sudden thought, Lu Yu had already returned to his dream, which was beyond his many dreams. Feeling a certain power within oneself, constantly flowing into dreams, and even through dreams, flowing into another place. However, unlike Lu Yu's own dream, no matter how much power flows into another place, he cannot control it at all. Since it is so, can he regain this power? Lu Yu had a vague feeling that the power that had been drained from his body seemed very important. Once it was completely drained, he would inevitably lose a great opportunity. Since that power was lost through dreams. So, can he destroy all the dreams around him? Even like that dreamy demon, integrating into oneself. Since he has gained great control over the surrounding dreams. It seems that this kind of thing is not impossible. Thinking of these, Lu Yu couldn't help but tentatively look towards a dream, as his mind moved. Boom! The dream trembled slightly, followed by a loud collapse, transforming into an ever-changing force of reality and illusion. Subsequently, under the control of Lu Yu, the force flew straight towards him and naturally integrated into his body. Wu. Lu Yu's body trembled slightly, his eyes narrowed instantly, and he couldn't help but moan. That was a power that belonged to him, finally returning once again, and he felt a sense of completion, which made him so intoxicated. After a while, Lu Yu slowly opened his eyes. When Lu Yu looked at other dreams again, there was already a hint of desire and greed in his eyes. I'm looking for a follow-up and recommendation, Old Iron Men. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Dream Collapse, Singularity Dimension. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Dream Collapse, Singularity Dimension. As Lu Yu's thoughts turned, one side's dreams were destroyed, and clusters of dream powers were absorbed and fused by him. By the end, there were no more dreams around, only a void of various colored light bands flowing through. With a slight sense, Lu Yu finally confirmed that his power was no longer lost. However, he still felt a sense of loss in his heart, as if there was still some room for improvement. With a slight frown and contemplation, Lu Yu slowly looked at the surrounding void, sensing the elusive connection between himself and it, and couldn't help but feel a slight movement in his heart. That countless dreams are dreams, isn't this void of light flowing before us a dream? You know, he's been dreaming all along now. Unconsciously, Lu Yu became slightly focused, carefully sensing the surrounding void. Gradually, the elusive connection began to strengthen bit by bit. Sure enough. Lu Yu's eyes lit up and he murmured in a low voice. Next, Lu Yu continued to communicate with the surrounding dream void and tried to pull it into his body to merge with himself. Bang, 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 I don't know how long it has been, but this dreamlike void suddenly shook and quickly collapsed towards the direction of the landing feather. This sudden situation immediately startled Lu Yu. However, before he could react, the power of the entire dream void had already enveloped him without any dead corners and forced him into his body. And during this process, he constantly compressed Lu Yu himself and even collapsed towards a point. Finally, buzz. Lu Yu only felt a brain shake, and his entire body, including this dream void, collapsed into a singularity. In this moment, beyond the void of this dream, a small inconspicuous area suddenly disappeared from a dazzling sea of light and mist. In an instant, the surrounding light and mist trembled slightly, rushing towards the missing area and causing a tremor. After a while, the place finally regained its composure, as if nothing had happened. On the other side, Lu Yu suddenly opened his eyes and sat up from the bed. Touch your body, feel the pajamas almost soaked in cold sweat, and then look around at the environment. After confirming that this was his bedroom and that he had truly woken up, Lu Yu finally breathed a long sigh of relief and survived. He would think that he was going to die in the collapse of that void. Remembering the scene where the entire void was destroyed and squeezed towards him before, Lu Yu still had lingering fear and shook his head with a bitter smile. This kind of reckless and unclear behavior is really easy to kill. After a while, Lu Yu finally suppressed the palpitations in his heart and began to ponder to himself. I don't know if I can still enter a dream. If not, one may really miss an opportunity. I don't know if I can use the power of the fear demon I have gained in reality. If it doesn't work, the only thing worth celebrating is that you're still alive. With a sigh, Lu Yu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, got up and went to the bathroom. He took off his wet pajamas, took a hot shower, and changed into new ones, which was the way to return. Sitting on the bed, Lu Yu held his breath and focused slightly, trying to use the power of the fear dream demon. However, his face turned red as he held it back, and he did not feel any strength in his body. As for emitting the power of fear, and even condensing the seed of fear, there was no movement at all. It seems that everything before was just an illusion. But Lu Yu was very certain that although it was in a dream, it was definitely not an illusion, but a real dream and fear of demons. But now, he couldn't make it out at all, which made him extremely frustrated. He lay on his back weakly and forcefully pulled over the blanket. Sleep. With a murmur, Lu Yu closed his eyes. However, with something in his heart, how could Lu Yu, lying in bed, be able to sleep? After flipping over and realizing that he couldn't fall asleep, Lu Yu couldn't help but sit up again and feel the sensation in his heart. This time, he did not sense the power of the fear demon, but instead looked to see if he could sense that void dream. Well, actually, as he deepens his control over dreams, even when he is awake, he can sense them. It seems that due to his time travel, his dreams have become fixed and will not be shattered with awakening. So even when awake, the dream still exists, and he can still sense it. Even in a calm and composed state, he can actively dream. And now, he is naturally trying to sense dreams, and even fall asleep. Bang bang. Bang bang. As Lu Yu remained calm and composed, a faint sensation surged into his heart, like a heartbeat, connecting his soul and soul. Hey! It's not a void dream. What is this? Lu Yu's mind was filled with question marks. Did he even come up with a dream heart? Unable to help, Lu Yu, who was puzzled in his heart, sank into the mysterious sensation. Bomb. Lu Yu only felt a darkness in front of him, and before he had time to check the specific situation, he felt his brain crash and a huge amount of information flood into his mind, making him feel dizzy and disoriented. After a while, Lu Yu gradually recovered. At the same time, he also gained a deep understanding of his current situation. His current state is a condensed state of all his own mental and spiritual will, power and ability, and the most fundamental and initial singularity. There is no need to say much about his mind and will, but his power and ability are related to dreams and fear. Besides, another ability that surprised him greatly was dimension. In the past, the power of its integration into dreams was the power of dimensions. With the blessing of dimensional power, Lu Yu's dream is completely stable and solidified. Even if awakened, it will not break or break away from his own control. Similarly, due to the integration of dimensional power, Lu Yu has extremely strong control over dreams. The source of dimensional power is actually due to Lu Yu's crossing. Well, let's not worry about how he traveled. But in the process of crossing the world, he inevitably became infected with the dimensional power that belongs to the world, and even beyond the world. Although Lu Yu may have only been exposed to an extremely subtle trace, or even just some breath. However, for Lu Yu's soul consciousness, it was already a great creation. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Source Point. Void. The concept of nothingness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Source Point. Void. The concept of nothingness, the power of dimensionality. Not just ordinary people, but even the top gods and demons in the world may not be able to reach even a fraction. Perhaps that's why Lu Yu felt that if the dimensional power was completely lost, he would lose a great opportunity. The power of dimensionality, not to mention Lu Yu, is also a considerable opportunity for many powerful gods and demons. Fortunately, with Lu Yu's bold attempt, he completely integrated the power of dimensions with his dreams, mental and willpower, and so on, transforming them into his own. From then on, the power of that dimension became the exclusive ability of Lu Yu, which could be destroyed and erased by external forces, along with the landing feather, but could no longer be separated and stripped away. Now, that infinitely small consciousness soul's origin singularity is the current state of Lu Yu, and it is also the foundation of everything he does. After contemplation, Lu Yu referred to his current state as the source point. The origin of everything, the beginning of all things. Subsequently, Lu Yu was preparing to embark on his dream once again. After everything was merged, it did not disappear, but became more harmonious and free to use freely. Moreover, due to the complete integration with dimensional power, when the dream is unfolded again, it will undergo a transformation, complete consolidation and stability, and will no longer easily collapse and break. Moreover, in the dream, Lu Yu will also receive all the power blessings within it. If the next time there is an unconscious dream demon invading, Lu Yu only needs to use his thoughts to manipulate the power of the dream to crush and destroy it. As Lu Yu's thoughts moved, the source point immediately shook slightly. Buzz. A dreamlike space bubble that seems both virtual and real, resembling reality and illusion, rapidly unfolds with the source point as its core, and soon reconnects, creating a dazzling sea of light and mist on the other side. However, there is always a sense of isolation between the two sides that seems to blend in but not in harmony, as if they are at a distance. Through the bubbles in the dream space, Lu Yu clearly sensed the external situation and couldn't help but be momentarily stunned. It seemed to be similar to his previous void dream, or rather, the two were originally one, but due to the power of dimensionality, Lu Yu separated that area into his own void dream. So, does it mean that besides this dream bubble, there are many other dreams? Even those kind of dreamers? However, that has little to do with my current self. Lu Yu could feel that he was temporarily unable to leave his dream space bubble and enter that sea of dream light and mist, let alone search for other dreams to enter. After sensing the external environment for a while longer, Lu Yu withdrew his attention and returned to his dream space. A dimensional void with no sky, no earth, and no material energy, feeling the current dream space, Lu Yu felt that it seemed very similar to the legendary state of nothingness before the world opened up and evolved. Of course, there must still be a significant difference. However, this does not hinder Lu Yu's imagination. This was originally his dream, but if he thinks a little stronger and sets it higher, is there anything he can't do? This is the endless void. It is the state of nothingness, in which all things, all laws, and all paths do not exist. Boom. After Lu Yu said those words, the entire endless void, as well as the source point that represents him, all shook slightly. A concept belonging to this dreamland void, belonging to Lu Yu, was born. None, before the world opened up and evolved, everything, laws, and ways were non-existent. At the same time, a conceptual power of nothingness arises at the Liyuan point and merges with this void. At the same time, every change and fluctuation of the endless void were presented in Lu Yu's mind with unparalleled clarity. This state of controlling everything and using the whole world for my own benefit made Lu Yu deeply immersed in it. However, over time, this feeling of being in control and knowing everything also made him feel a sense of fatigue. It's not a consumption of strength, it's a kind of mental exhaustion, just like constantly observing and thinking about problems. Spiritually, there will naturally be a feeling of exhaustion. However, the state of controlling everything and perceiving everything was something that Lu Yu could not close. Because this endless void is already a part of him, he can naturally perceive it at all times, and it will also be a constantly awake perception. Unconsciously, Lu Yu furrowed his brow. He didn't want to keep doing this in the future. Especially with the evolution of this void, it will naturally become more complex and ever-changing. If Lu Yu continues to maintain this state, he will have to be annoyed to death. I need to find a way to block this state, preferably by being able to turn it on and off anytime, anywhere. Lu Yu maintained a state of almost omniscient and omnipotent integration with the endless void, and began to deduce solutions. Quickly, Lu Yu found some clues. Gradually, a phantom appeared from outside the source and gradually solidified, just like Lu Yu's. A halo shines brightly behind its head, and the entire endless void resonates with it. This is the method that Lu Yu came up with, just like the concept of nothingness that was defined before. Now, the halo behind his mind is the manifestation of the concept of endless void, authority, and power. He can freely use the endless void power through the halo behind his head. Similarly, he can also close this state by concealing the halo behind his brain. This is Lu Yu's definition of the halo behind the brain, which opens and closes his control over the void. So, the halo behind Lu Yu's brain possessed this ability. Of course, this ability to define can only work in the void that is absolutely controlled by Lu Yu on this side, and he does not possess this ability in the outside world. Of course, perhaps in the future, when Lu Yu's strength is strong enough, he can achieve these things. And in addition, there is also the power of fear possessed by Lu Yu when he devours the demon of fear. Lu Yu still holds the power of fear, and even due to its complete integration, the power of fear has been strengthened to some extent. Even anywhere in the entire void, Lu Yu can generate a realm of fear anytime and anywhere, allowing those who enter it to instinctively develop fear of that void. Feeling his own abilities, Lu Yu couldn't help but feel a little silent. Is this a fear of emptiness? However, just like the power of the void, the power of fear obtained by Lu Yu's devouring of the fear dream demon is also temporarily unavailable for external use. However, he is able to achieve some subtle spiritual influences. For example, when Lu Yu is angry, or when he has the intention to do something, he can make others feel a slight sense of fear towards him. However, there is only a trace of it, and there can't be any more. After multiple attempts and careful observation of the state of opening and closing the halo behind the brain, Lu Yu withdrew from this dimensional void after confirming that there were no issues. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Void of the True Realm, Illusions of Reality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Void of the True Realm, Illusions of Reality. In the next few days, Lu Yu was constantly familiarizing himself with his power and intentionally or unintentionally probing the surroundings to see if anyone was like him. After all, beyond his dream space, there is a broader dream space. He doesn't feel that he, or his original self, is the only special existence. Since he can encounter fear demons, other people can naturally encounter similar demons as well. Unfortunately, he did not gather any information about these. I don't know if it's because his level is too low, or because the country's blockade is too good, ordinary people simply cannot access these. Or it's because he's really the only exception. However, there has been no progress in Lu Yu's exploration of dream demon information. Instead, his mastery of his own abilities has been greatly enhanced and improved. Appearing again in the endless void, a halo of light bloomed behind his head, and the entire endless void responded to it. Lu Yu slowly spoke up. Creating something out of nothing, the evolution of the void, the true world. Void. As Lu Yu's voice fell, the entire endless void shook violently, and the concept power that belonged to nothingness immediately gave birth to new changes, giving rise to new forces. If you have to say it, it's there. And this existence is just the beginning of the evolution of all things in the world. In Lu Yu's dream space, this existence is divided into two parts. I saw the entire endless void constantly twisting and changing, with some mysterious power overflowing from every corner of the void, gradually converging into one place. After losing this power, the endless void seemed to suddenly become even more void and empty. And the power that converges from the endless void is at another mysterious level higher than the endless void, instantly evolving into another mysterious space corresponding to the endless void. At the same time, within the halo behind Lu Yu's head, another ray of light emerged, transforming into another halo and slowly blooming. In this way, two halos bloomed behind Lu Yu's head, representing another evolutionary transformation of his abilities. With a thought, a ripple rippled over Lu Yu's figure, gradually dissipating into the endless void. Lu Yu only felt a burst of illusion and solidity in the void before his eyes, but in an instant, he had already appeared in another space. Compared to the endless void, this space is much smaller, at most only a radius of 1 or 2 meters. However, compared to the endless void, this space has a reality that the endless void does not possess. Here is the true realm that Lu Yu previously divided, which means the real world. The concept of having, defined by Lu Yu this time, is based on the relationship between reality and dreams. One is illusory, and the other is real. Compared to the endless void, the real world is the real world. No matter how powerful the existence is in the endless void, for the real world, it is a dream and bubble, completely unable to harm anything in the real world. And anything in the real world that falls into the endless void possesses an indestructible, indelible, and boundless power that pierces through everything. The combination of reality, illusion, and reality is the existence derived from nothingness. After the evolution of the dream space, Lu Yu once again possessed two types of power. Previously, Lu Yu possessed the power of non-existence, where everything was empty and nothing was present. In front of Lu Yu, everything would disappear, and various attacks and defenses would have no meaning or existence for him. And this time, the power of authority is both real and illusory. If Lu Yu says it's real, then it's real. If it's a false fantasy, then it's just a false fantasy. Well, it seems that false fantasies are no different from nothing. But in fact, these are two completely different concepts. Because for some beings, false fantasies can also be a form of power. Knowledge is power, and imagination can also generate power. The so-called refining falsehood into truth, falsehood can also become reality. Reality and illusion are just two relative conceptual forces. However, nothing is different. Nothing means that it does not exist. Any power or practice that comes true does not exist. Standing in the true realm, Lu Yu's mind moved and a deep darkness slowly spread from where he stood. In the end, the deep darkness blurred the entire space. It's as if this real-world space has turned into a terrifying night. However, in this terrifying night, Lu Yu had no sense of fear at all, only an endless sense of security and peace of mind. The power of evolving fear of the dark night is naturally the power of fear that Lu Yu possesses. At this moment, the force of fear is integrated with the entire real world, transforming into the darkness of the real world. And when the power of fear fully integrates with the real world, it casts a black shadow of fear towards the endless void, enveloping the entire endless void and gradually merging with it. For Lu Yu, the endless void is illusory, but for others it is not. Well, the current dream space and the real world are also illusory. But power, whether real or illusory, can be real and not illusory. In Lu Yu's heart, he had already left the real world and awakened from reality. Taking a deep breath, Lu Yu remained calm and began to slowly mobilize the power of the real world and the endless void. Gradually, behind Lu Yu's head, there seemed to be a faint light, and two illusory and hazy halos. Immediately after, in front of Lu Yu, a hazy light and shadow emerged, ultimately transforming into a model of the city. Lu Yu stared intently at the city model in front of him, wanting to simulate some humans in it. Then, bang! The entire city model exploded and dissipated into a mist of light. Lu Yu was momentarily taken aback, wondering if he had taken it too far for granted. He has just acquired the ability to evolve an illusion in the outside world, and it is indeed difficult for him to evolve complex urban scenes. It is better to start from simplicity. Lu Yu remained calm and focused again, thinking about the illusion he wanted to transform. Gradually, with a wave of light and fog, a wall identical to the wall of the surrounding room began to emerge in the direction of the bedroom door. Sure enough. Lu Yu showed a joyful expression. Transforming such a simple wall is not only easier, but also much more realistic. Even if you don't look carefully, you may not be able to tell the truth behind it. If it were in the dark, it would be enough to confuse truth with falsehood. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Practical Application of the Power of Fear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Practical Application of the Power of Fear. Lu Yu took 2 steps forward and reached out to touch the illusionary wall in front of him. In an instant, a ripple formed on the wall, and his arm went straight through without feeling any obstruction. Unfortunately, this is just a pure visual illusion. Lu Yu shook his head and dispelled the illusion of the wall at the door. Of course, although it feels a bit regretful, to be honest, Lu Yu was not really disappointed, and even said he was mostly happy. After all, this is really extraordinary. Sudden use at certain times can also have a significant impact. Such as Lu Yu once again remained calm and focused, as the wall transformed at a faster pace, while the wall beside him gradually transformed into a door. Hee. Lu Yu chuckled and said, if it were in the dark, it wouldn't be too much if we could detect any issues in the first place. Afterwards, Lu Yu continued to familiarize and exercise his ability to transform illusions. By the end, simple illusions such as wall cups could already be conjured up by Lu Yu's mind. However, this illusion can only be visually deceived, and even the distance is limited. It can only be transformed within a range of 3 meters around him. However, Lu Yu was also very satisfied. After all, it was also a kind of extraordinary ability. Immediately after, Lu Yu's thoughts turned around. In an instant, a terrifying aura spread and instantly enveloped within a radius of 3 meters. Then, Lu Yu saw some corners of the wall and suddenly crawled out some cockroaches and ants, frantically fleeing towards the surroundings. And, waves of almost imperceptible fear constantly flooded into his dream world. Lu Yu took a step and walked around the entire room, driving out all the cockroaches, insects, and ants. And the harvest, being able to occupy a fist-sized territory in the endless void. This cannot be said to be without gains, but compared to the endless void, it can only be said to be a drop in the ocean. However, Lu Yu did not dislike it at all. Compared to illusions, this ability to spread fear and recover the power of fear is the fundamental reason for his current strength improvement. The fear power that those cockroaches, insects, and ants can acquire is naturally extremely small. However, when it comes to humans or those dreamers, they are two completely different concepts. Thinking back then, he had gained several powerful fear powers from the fearful dreamers. Lu Yu couldn't help but tremble, wishing that two dreamers would appear now. Thinking of that scene, Lu Yu couldn't help but ponder with a slight excitement. I don't know if with his current strength, he can enter the endless void, which seems to be a mist of light composed of dreams. Perhaps there, he could still encounter the dream demon again. Thinking of this possibility, Lu Yu's heart became excited again, and he quickly returned to bed to lie down, ready to enter the dream world. However, just as he lay down, Lu Yu's already sensitive hearing was the noise from the next door. That seems to be a man and a woman. At this moment, the woman was shouting at the man in a sharp voice. Waste, loser, how could I marry you? Since you don't want to be with me, why don't you divorce? You. What are you talking about? How dare you tell me about divorce? You don't even think about it. Just a useless person like you, who would marry you after divorcing me. A series of piercing and noisy sounds entered Lu Yu's ears, causing him to furrow his brows. Unconsciously, a terrifying aura emanated from his body, instantly enveloping a radius of 3 meters. Between Lu Yu and his neighbor, although separated by a wall, there was ultimately no area exceeding 3 meters. The power of fear emanating from Lu Yu seemed to be unaffected by material reality and penetrated straight through. In an instant, the incessant sound of arguments came to a halt, as if being choked on the neck. Following that, husband. Old man, wife. A man and a woman's voices suddenly sounded, and then came the sound of a body collision, as if the two were tightly hugging and trembling together. In an instant, Lu Yu felt two powerful forces surge into his dream world, causing his strength to suddenly increase. Compared to the dream demon, the power that has increased him at once is not much weaker. Lu Yu's eyes narrowed slightly, feeling the comfortable feeling of power growth. He couldn't help but think to himself that it is indeed a human being who is a wise life that can provide more emotional power. Well, those legendary ghosts always look for humans to attack, is that why? You should know, isn't the ability of that dreamer to spread fear and absorb the power of fear? Since humans can provide more power of fear, those dreamers will naturally instinctively seek humans for intimidation. Even in the final moments, one should devour and wipe away the human spirit, dreams, and so on. Afterwards, although Lu Yu regained the emitted fear power, there were still strands of fear power that continuously flowed into his body. After a while, the power of fear that flooded into his body gradually weakened and became intermittent. And next door, a male voice rang out again. Wife, my wife is fine now. I'm here. Woo, husband, it was so scary just now. What was that about? As he spoke, he seemed to recall the situation just now and his body trembled again. Just now, they were suddenly engulfed in a cold forest, as if they had fallen into a terrifying dark abyss, causing an uncontrollable fear in their hearts. At the same time, Lu Yu felt two significant forces once again pouring into the dream world. Lu Yu was slightly surprised. The two people next door, who had come and gone, were about to catch up with the previous dream demon, providing half of the power of fear. He couldn't help but want to do it again. However, Lu Yu eventually held back. As the controller of the power of fear, he naturally knows the consequences of being intimidated by the power of fear and absorbing the power of fear emotions. It's okay to have less frequency and strength, but those who are drained of the power of fear will at most feel mentally drained. However, if one draws a large amount of strength for a long time, it can damage the mind and even lead to complete mental breakdown, or even complete death. So, Lu Yu did not threaten the two again, but prepared to enter the dream world. Before entering, Lu Yu couldn't help but tug at the corner of his mouth as he listened to the whispers of the other person next door. I am really a good person, which has reconciled another family. If we do good deeds without leaving a name, we don't have to let them know. Well, that's it. Muttering in his mouth, Lu Yu closed his eyes and his mind instantly entered a dream world. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Swallowing and Entering. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Swallowing and Entering. In the dream world, Lu Yu stands in the endless void, with two halos blooming at the back of his head, and the power of the real world and the void is fully exerted on him. With a gentle step, Lu Yu arrived at the boundary barrier of endless void. Well, it's called endless emptiness, and it's also because of the illusion of dreams. In theory, it's possible to achieve the size of the heart and the size of the world. But in fact, this is not the case. If the endless void is truly a false illusion, then these can naturally be achieved. But in fact, the real world and the endless void are only relative reality and illusion. Both are essentially dreams, and for the real world, they can be considered false. But to some extent, it incorporates a hint of dimensional authority, as well as a part of the outer dreamland of light and mist, and after adding a dream demon. The real world and the void can also be considered real for both the spiritual body and the dreamer. Since it truly exists, it naturally requires support from corresponding forces. With Lu Yu's current spiritual strength, it is obviously impossible to truly open up an infinite spiritual void. The endless void of today, even if it is relatively illusory, is just a sphere with a radius of 10,000 meters, and naturally has boundaries. If you really want to reach an infinite degree and become a truly endless void, there is still a long way to go. Gently extending his palm, Lu Yu touched the barrier of the void and penetrated straight through it as if submerged in the water. Lu Yu's palm touched the light and mist from the outside world, and a chaotic erosive force slightly eroded his palm. Lu Yu's expression was slightly condensed, but he did not retract his palm. Firstly, the erosive force was too weak to truly cause any harm to Lu Yu. Secondly, Lu Yu wanted to see if there were any other dangers involved. After waiting for a moment, Lu Yu finally confirmed that the ocean of light and fog outside should not be too dangerous except for the chaotic erosive force. At least nearby, or on the surface, there should be no danger. Looking at the swirling light and mist outside, a ray of light flashed in Lu Yu's eyes, and after a slight contemplation. Finally, the thought turned, and the palm that stretched out the spatial barrier clumped slightly, quickly forming a spatial bubble that enveloped a mist of light. Immediately after, Lu Yu withdrew his palm and also withdrew the spatial bubble. Subsequently, Lu Yu dispersed the spatial bubbles and exposed the mist within it to the void of the dream world. Hiss, buzz. In an instant, the mist began to erode the surrounding space, and a slight buzzing and vibration came from the surrounding space, resisting the erosion of the mist. And that space also twisted slightly, constantly breaking down and melting the swirling mist, slowly merging it into Lu Yu's dream world. At the same time, there was a dark twisted shadow that twisted and formed around the mist, which was the concrete manifestation of the power of fear. After its manifestation, it also began to constantly devour the power of light and mist. Lu Yu could feel the power of the dream world, as well as the power of fear, gradually increasing. As time passed, the light mist captured by Lu Yu was finally completely engulfed and fused. Lu Yu carefully felt the increased power he had gained and estimated a value, which was approximately 1% more than before. So strong. Lu Yu couldn't help but think of this idea in his mind. This is a cloud of light and mist that he casually grabbed, and in the outside world, such a cloud of light and mist is simply endless. Unconsciously, Lu Yu's gaze towards the ocean of light and mist outside brought a hint of fierceness. As he thought in his heart, Lu Yu took a step forward, as if submerged in water, and walked straight out of the dream world, stepping into the sea of light and mist. Well, since it has been confirmed that the external light and fog will not have a significant impact on him, but can actually enhance his strength, then what else is there to say? Just go in directly. After entering the sea of light and mist, Lu Yu did not immediately explore outside, but stood quietly in place, feeling the erosion of external light and mist on him. And now, can he still use the power of his dream world? Two halos bloomed at the back of the head, unfolding a bubble that was 1 meter in radius, directly isolating the surrounding light and mist. Well, it seems that in this sea of light and mist, I can use some of the power of the dream world, but it is much more powerful than the power exerted in reality. Looking at the bubbles enveloping his body, Lu Yu moved his mind slightly and knew everything. This bubble within a radius of 1 meter is the dream world of Lu Yu, and the power evolution projected from it can be called the realm of the dream world. Lu Yu can use all the abilities of the dream world within this range, including fear, reality, illusion, and the power of the concept of nothingness. Although it was weakened many times compared to the dream world, it was enough to make Lu Yu ecstatic. This represents that his conceptual abilities defined in the dream world can also be demonstrated in the outside world. In addition, things in the realm of dream world can also be incorporated into the dream world by Lu Yu. And in this way, Lu Yu looked around and couldn't help but chuckle. In the next moment, the air bubbles surrounding Lu Yu opened up a crack. Silently, the light mist drifting from the outside rushed rapidly towards the realm of the dream world. Subsequently, Lu Yu incorporated it into the dream world. The endless void of the dream world suddenly revealed clusters of brilliant mist and light. At the moment it appears, it begins to erode the surrounding space. And the surrounding void space is twisted, with fierce shadows wriggling and constantly devouring, clusters of brilliant light mist. Overall, the devouring power of Lu Yu's dream world is even stronger. Unfortunately, the speed at which light and mist appear far exceeds their devouring power. In a short while, most of the endless void had already been filled with the dazzling light and mist. This makes the endless void, which should have been pitch black, become brilliant and colorful, as if filled with endless brilliant aurora rainbows. Moreover, as the dazzling mist filled most of the space, the speed of the endless void's devouring of it immediately decreased by a certain amount. On the contrary, the light and fog greatly increased the erosion of space. Feeling the situation in the dream world, Lu Yu immediately closed, and the open cracks in the dream world stopped devouring the surrounding light and mist. He felt that if he continued, his dream world would probably be eroded and melted by the light and mist in the opposite direction. Still too weak. Lu Yu sighed inwardly and began to walk slowly forward. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Nightmares and Scar Marks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Nightmares and Scar Marks. Amidst the boundless and dazzling light and mist, Lu Yu walked slowly, while also cautiously looking around, being careful of any potential dangers that might arise. And, let's see if we can touch those weak dreamers. Soon, Lu Yu's figure was submerged in the sea of light and mist, surrounded by endless brilliant light and mist. If it weren't for the inseparable connection between him and the dream world, he would have lost himself in it. After a while, around Lu Yu, there was still a brilliant mist of light, without any anomalies. Just as Lu Yu was getting impatient and preparing to return, he suddenly saw a black shadow in front of him. In a flash, he was engulfed in the dazzling sea of light and mist. Hey. As soon as Lu Yu's eyes lit up, he quickly moved forward. When he arrived nearby, Lu Yu slowed down and slowly approached. A black sphere, faintly visible in a dazzling mist of light. Looking at the black sphere, Lu Yu felt a bit confused. What is this? It doesn't seem like a demon. After a slight contemplation, Lu Yu decided to step forward and take a look at the situation. Step by step, when Lu Yu arrived at the black sphere 7 or 8 meters away, he paused his steps. This distance is exactly the farthest he can attack in this light and mist space. As the thought spun, the power of fear instantly spread and rapidly extended towards the front. In an instant, the dazzling light and mist in front of Lu Yu seemed to suddenly dim a bit, and his breath became suppressed. Soon, the dim light and fog had spread to the location of the black sphere. Buzzing, at the moment of being touched by the power of fear, the black sphere trembled violently, causing ripples of light and mist around it. Waves of fear constantly merged into his power of fear, pouring into his dream world, accelerating its speed of devouring light and mist. And Lu Yu also felt his spirit becoming more full and powerful. However, at this moment, Lu Yu didn't have time to pay attention to these things. This is. Lu Yu stared dumbfounded at the black sphere ahead, as if it was about to collapse with its trembling posture. Collapse. Lie down. Lu Yu instantly realized and quickly regained the power of the released fear. However, although Lu Yu had dissipated the power of fear, the vibration of the black sphere only slowed down slightly and was still constantly collapsing. Unconsciously, Lu Yu took a few quick steps and arrived in front of the black sphere. Looking around, there were strange and dazzling scenes flashing by, seemingly a dim abandoned old building with a blurry black ghost haunting it, constantly chasing the figure of one of the girls. The power of fear that flooded into Lu Yu's dream world seems to have mostly originated from that girl. As for the other small part of the power of fear, it is a part of the power transformed from the black sphere. At this moment, it seemed that the black sphere had reached its limit and suddenly collapsed. Puff. At the moment when the black sphere collapsed, the girl's figure disappeared in a wave. At this moment, upstairs in Lu Yu's room, a high school girl suddenly let out a scream, opened her eyes, sat up, and gasped for breath. When they noticed the surrounding environment, which is their own bedroom, this is the slow relaxation mood. However, when she thought of the nightmare she had just had, she couldn't help but feel lingering palpitations and a sense of fear. In an abandoned old building, a strange monster kept chasing and trying to kill her. But she couldn't escape no matter what, she could only constantly dodge there. In the end, everything in the entire old building became eerie and terrifying, as if the whole world had turned into a terrifying monster, which was what woke her up. In the endless light and mist, Lu Yu saw that it was a pity to see the girl disappear and the black sphere collapse. But soon, he was drawn to the power of fear that flooded into the dream world. What is this? After Lu Yu was slightly surprised, he couldn't help but calm his mind and carefully feel the source of power in the dream world. In a vague moment, Lu Yu felt some kind of connection. The two links were blurry and seemed to break at any moment, and the power emanating from them, if not, was about to completely dissipate. And the other link needs to be slightly clearer, and the power that comes from it needs to be even greater. Feeling these three links and the constant power coming from the other end, Lu Yu gradually revealed a clear expression. People who are influenced by the power of fear will be marked with a fear imprint that belongs to them, and corresponding links will be formed. The fear power generated by its influence will continuously flow into their dream world. These three links are the masters who are influenced by his fear field, have been imprinted with fear, and have developed fear towards him. If Lu Yu guessed correctly, those two seemingly unrelated links should be the couple next door to him. Because it has been some time now, their fear of the original situation is gradually dissipating, so those two links are also about to dissipate and disconnect. And the clearer link for that new student should be the one from the girl just now. And the black sphere just now is probably a derivative of that girl's dream. And the reason why it is black should be because the dreams it dreams are originally nightmares in the dark, which is why it appears pitch black. As for whether this is the case, we need to encounter other dreams to completely determine. Through the girl's link, Lu Yu can even vaguely feel the girl's mental fluctuations, and even some blurry scenes he sees. Even more so, Lu Yu could feel that he could project his own strength onto the girl and then continuously intimidate her, collecting the power of fear. Otherwise, as the girl's emotions gradually calm down, this link will gradually weaken and eventually be completely disconnected. However, disconnecting also means disconnecting. Although Lu Yu didn't have much sense of belonging to this world because he had just traveled for a few days. However, he did not have any reckless thoughts of harming others. He already knew that using the fear field to intimidate others and obtain feedback from the fear power would cause others to feel mentally drained and even collapse. Naturally, he would not do such harmful things. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The birth of dreams, unreal. Devouring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The birth of dreams, unreal. Devouring. Of course, Lu Yu did not have the intention of actively disconnecting this connection. Lu Yu has discovered that the power feedback from humans or dream demons can be easily absorbed by him. But it is even more difficult for him to transform light and mist. So, since it has already been affected by the power of fear, it will not have a significant impact on that girl. So why interrupt the feedback of this subsequent fear power, the harvest of Lu Yu's natural joy? Let everything take its course and fade away with the passage of time. After gaining an understanding of the fear and power that still flooded into the dream world, Lu Yu refocused his attention on the outside. The ghost chasing the girl did not disappear due to her waking up in reality and the collapse of her dream. It actually appeared in the mist of light. It seems that the surrounding light and fog have great destructive power on that ghost. More precisely, the ghost is rapidly disintegrating and constantly merging into the surrounding light and mist. At this moment, a fragment of the black sphere that had collapsed accidentally collided with the ghost. Boo! Like a stone entering water, the black spherical fragment plunged straight into the body of the ghost. In an instant, the body of the ghost had solidified by a fraction, as if even its decomposition speed had weakened or slowed down by a fraction. This seems to have activated the survival instinct of the ghost and started chasing other black sphere fragments. Lu Yu stood on the side, enveloping himself in the realm, blocking all the leakage of his own power, and then disappeared in the light and mist, curiously watching the every move of the ghost. As time passed, except for the black sphere fragments that had already melted in the mist, the other black sphere fragments were quickly devoured by the ghost. At this point, the ghost seemed to have completely stabilized and looked like a tall and thin figure like a bamboo pole. Although there are also hands, feet, and heads, they are all blurry and only have a rough shape. Feeling the breath on his body, Lu Yu exuded a thoughtful expression. This is probably the birth form of the dream demon. I just don't know if it's because all the dream demons were born this way, or if there are other ways of being born. After the birth of the dream demon, it immediately emitted strange waves, seemingly exploring the surrounding information through this method. However, when that eerie fluctuation touched the land of Lu Yu, it was instantly absorbed by him. After devouring that eerie wave, although it did not bring an increase in power to Lu Yu. However, it can prevent him from being discovered by the demon and allow him to feel the power and nature within it. Fear, and there is another strange power. However, I don't know if it's because that tall and thin dreamer has just been born and lacks enough power, and that ability hasn't fully formed. Tisk, it's a pity. The dream demon was emitting strange waves while exploring its surroundings. I am also constantly swallowing wisps of light and mist to increase my strength, but at a very slow pace. Looking at the dream demon ahead, Lu Yu pondered slightly. Can he use the way the dream demon explores the surroundings? Unconsciously, Lu Yu mobilized his internal strength and emitted it outwards. Unfortunately, the power emitted by Lu Yu did not spread out in the form of that eerie force. But instead, it directly expands outward like this. Although Lu Yu can indeed explore the surroundings in this way. However, while exploring the surroundings in this way, the surrounding life is also influenced by the power of fear. At the same time as detecting the target also becomes aware of their existence. For example, at this moment, the tall and thin dream demon in front of Lu Yu was enveloped by the power of his fear as it spread out. The tall and thin dream demon suddenly stiffened and mechanically turned to look in the direction of Lu Yu. Subsequently, the tall and thin Mengma knelt down straight, his whole body trembling. Lu Yu frowned and pondered as he watched everything. The kneeling and bowing of the tall and thin dreamer seemed not to be due to fear. Because he did not receive feedback from the power of fear. That seems to be a kind of lower life, instinctive submission to higher life. After a little thought, Lu Yu also understood. That tall and thin dreamer has just been born, facing him who has also mastered the power of fear and completed an advanced transformation. Isn't that equivalent to Lu Yu being a more advanced fear demon than him? So, it's not difficult to understand that the tall and thin dream demon surrendered to him. Moreover, this seems to be the dreamers here, an instinctive behavior in the face of superiors, without any other changes due to their emotions and so on. For example, now, the tall and thin dream demon, although trembling in front of Lu Yu. But in fact, he did not generate any fear or other thoughts, he just instinctively knelt down and surrendered. This newly born dream demon only acts according to its own instincts and does not generate any other thoughts. Well, in that case, let's just swallow the matter. After understanding the state of the tall and thin dream demon, Lu Yu only pondered slightly before quickly stepping forward, enveloping it in the realm of the dream world, and then moving it into the dream world. After all, he doesn't actually have any means of attack now, the only thing he has is the power of fear, but that can only cause fear and cannot be used for other attacks. And the tall and thin dreamer, however, did not have any fear emotions. To deal with it, it naturally needed to be transferred into the dream world, and with the power of the dream world, it was killed. After bringing the tall and thin dream demon back into the dream world, Lu Yu scanned his surroundings again and saw that there was nothing else left. With a sudden thought, he also returned to the dream world. Exploring outward requires Lu Yu to walk step by step, but returning to the dream world only requires his one thought, which can instantly return. The endless void of Lu Yu's dream world was filled with countless colorful mist and light. However, Lu Yu did not pay any attention to these things, but instead looked towards a place where there was no light or mist present. The tall and thin dream demon was trembling in the void. Because of the endless void, there is a powerful aura filled with landing feathers everywhere. Unreal is both illusory. As Lu Yu's words fell, the tall and thin dreamy demon immediately became illusory, as if it were just a phantom. Subsequently, Lu Yu controlled the power of the void to suppress it. Boo! In an instant, the tall and thin dreamy demon was like an illusory bubble, exploding into a force mixed with fear and merging into the void. New book for follow. Up and recommendation, please. End of this chapter.